Hello everyone, DonTheCrown here, and today we're going to talk about some build recommendations for the upcoming Sandlord season for Torchlight Infinite. Now I'm going to give you 10 different builds that I think are going to be pretty decent. These might not end up being the most meta endgame builds, but these should get you through the campaign pretty well. But you can really just play any character that you want. All of the characters, with the exception of the brand new character, are going to be free. So you can play pretty much anything you want. And if it takes you like a few hours to get through the campaign as opposed to like 2 hours, that's not really all that big of a deal, especially compared to, I don't know, some other ARPGs where it might take you a couple of days to get through the campaign on a bad build. Now, I also do want to point out that on our website, heroic.gg, we're planning on having a whole bunch of different campaign guides. I'm in the process of writing up campaign guides for both Rehan's, Thea 2, and the new Thea 3, and those should be available once the patch goes live. Obviously, we have a little bit of inside NDA information, so we can't publish these early, but check out the site. We just ported everything over to a new version of the site, so things are kind of getting updated and stuff, but pretty excited about that. We have a whole bunch of content creators that are kind of pitching in there. Now, the very first build that I am going to recommend is kind of an oldie but a goodie, and it is Train for Rehan 1. When we say Rehan 1, what that means is if you're looking at the character selector, it's always the first Rehan, so kind of the first character, and it's the guy who looks like this, basically. And Train Rehan is basically just using that hero trait to proc off Burst a whole bunch here, and Burst basically does damage, and it just procs a whole bunch. This is probably getting a small-ish kind of nerf here, because the final hero trait was like basically just self-ramping a whole bunch, so we're actually going to have to scale some attack speed, but I think that's going to be totally fine. Whirlwind did get a hit quite a bit here, maybe not a bit, but 30% movement speed negative, so we could definitely see a potential return from Whirlwind to Savage Charge. Savage Charge, basically you like put down your shoulder, you just charge through enemies, and this is like where the name Train came from when like Milky kind of like popularized this build. You use this to help proc off your burst a whole bunch. Now, this does kind of lead to a kind of funny situation with Savage Charge, because they're adding some new supports for this, and one of those supports makes it so that when if you reach max channel stacks, if you have the the Demolisher charge for this, you actually just shoot the Demolisher charge out without having to stop. And Savage Charge actually has a really funny cosmetic where you get on a motorcycle, and so the Demolisher charge for this basically shoots the motorcycle out. So this is going to be the world's first ARPG where you're going to be able to shoot motorcycles at enemies. I don't think we've ever seen that before, anything even close to that. So I might have to try that out just for the fun of it, which might just be kind of goofy. That said, though, this build is very, very solid. You'll I have a whole campaign guide that I'll be showing off of it on heroic.gg, and it's just a very, very just kind of baseline, very easy to understand type of build, and so I highly recommend that. The other Rehan build here that I would recommend for Rehan 2 is you can go and you can start off by playing Berserking Blade, or you can do the Ground Shaker. We can kind of see here that on like day 1, there's a whole bunch of guys here that were playing Berserking Blade, like including Etup here, for example, and just a very, very solid way to level. Now, there is a pretty big difference for Rehan 2, and that you are going to have a new hero trait here, and this hero trait doesn't have the you are disarmed while Berserk is active, and so that is going to be a pretty nice upgrade here for Rehan. Let me actually pull this up real quick. Sorry about that. So this can be called Fury's Onslaught, and so you have Seething Spirit. When a melee main skill attack is used while Berserk is active, Seething Spirit appears and automatically attacks for 1 second. And if you continue to use the main skill, or it's the main melee skill, it continues to keep the Seething Spirit up. And Rage will no longer be naturally consumed while Berserk is active, and Rage consumed by melee attack skills will be halved. And this is kind of like allows you to kind of like not get disarmed, which means like as you're going through the campaign, you can continue to leap slam, and just makes the leveling process a lot better. Also, Rage Infusion here is going to have a new trait to it as well, which is down here, which means that if you like have been in Berserk for at least 5 seconds, you're no longer going to be disarmed. So you're going to be able to get around being disarmed, you know, a lot better. Actually, this is already there. I don't know why this is on the patch notes then. Oh, it's because they also get 40% more rage gain. That's why. So this is going to be giving a little bit of quality of life to Rehan 2. Rehan 2 was already pretty darn popular last season. A lot of people were popping off with it, and it kind of just seems like they're giving a lot more to it. Another thing to note is like two-handers getting a lot of love this season. So we might see a whole bunch of two-hander Rehans in here, and you will be able to use melding to share some of the traits between Rehan 1 and Rehan 2. For hero traits, we're not really sure which ones are going to be available yet, but that could potentially be very powerful there. Next up, let's talk about Carino. And Carino 2 has kind of been the go-to OP character for Torchlight for several seasons now. He's kind of clunky, but typically very strong. And pretty much just seeing him like do pretty good in the early game, and then just really kind of just ramp like crazy into the end game has been the like cheapest build to play to beat Supreme Showdown 20, like ever since Supreme Showdown has kind of came out. So we'll see if he can stay and continue to do that, you know, this season. Now, Ice Lance is typically one of the big go-to skills here, but you'll see other people playing like Blazing Bullet early on. I think both of those are going to be a decent way to level, and it'd be very interesting to kind of see like how good this does. But I definitely don't see this as being bad next season. There was definitely a little bit of nerfs to some of his kit, some of the like stuff that he was using. But even if they nerf it, you know, a decent chunk, it's probably still very strong. Next up, let's talk about Youga 1 and 2. Now, Youga 1, always pretty popular here as well. Chain Lightning absolutely pops off. Lots of people playing that, getting like above level 90 here on day 1. And they did make one change here where I'm an Illusion is now going to have a negative 30% movement speed. But I'm pretty sure that's like the only nerf this guy ate. And he, you know, he's getting the buffs from having new belt mods and other stuff. And so definitely feel like Youga 1 is going to be a very strong starter that you cannot like really, you know, you can't really complain about like getting like photophobia here, giving you beacon, and then like getting like any sort of good, like, you know, just cheap weapon early on. It's going to be pretty easy, pretty good way to farm up early game. And then Youga 2 is probably going to be incredibly expensive, but also very popular as well. Mind Control also did receive a negative 30% movement speed. So it's going to be a little bit less like just run through the campaign with Mind Control active and just like kind of kill everything as you're going. And probably have to like maybe like farm a little bit more treasure trove action. But I think that is going to be totally fine and totally like kind of a free way up, especially because some of the new legendaries that they have added for this season seem like they're pretty much like built for our new Corrosion Queen that's coming in here, specifically stuff like a Scepter of Excommunication, which gives you intelligence, erosion damage, and erosion skill level. This is supposed to be like transitionary legendary gear, so I kind of assume that this is going to be very easy to get early on, and skill levels and intelligence gives you quite a big multiplier, and so just getting these is going to be very, very nice as well. And yeah, like a lot of these new legendaries are all about doing corrosion or erosion damage. So yeah, I think that Youga 2 is going to be very, very solid. Maybe a downside is that it might be expensive for sure. Next up, let's talk about Erica. Erica 1 and 2, kind of like in the beginning of last season, didn't really seem like it was going to pop off as much as it did. But Erica 1 and 2 really, really were doing quite strong. I think they're going to continue to do really, really well next season. And so for like Erica 1, like Berserker Blade and Thunderspike, Thunderspike did receive a little bit of a nerf in terms of like the numbed effect and stuff, but for the most part, still very strong. Erica herself did kind of receive a little bit of a systematic nerf here, whereas this 75% chance to multi-strike is no longer going to be around. So if you do want to like stack up multi-striking a whole bunch, you are going to have to get that on gear or on passives or other places. So it's not just kind of like almost a free 100% multi-strike here in Erica, but I think that for the most part, the character's going to be really, really strong. Typically, Erica does quite a bit of damage, but tends to be kind of squishy, and that's probably going to continue. But it'll be very interesting to see like what type of melding stuff the two Ericas can share between them, because if you can like go and take stuff like interest here, decrease of movement speed, and put that on Erica 2 on a belt, that could potentially be pretty cool. But I'm sure that the like hero trait melding stuff is going to be very much an end game thing. We already kind of talked about it a little bit here though. Like Erica 2 kind of like is very similar in a lot of ways to Erica 1. We just get Thunder Spike. You're just kind of like more focusing on numb and numbed effect. All of that stuff did kind of get a little bit of a nerf, but still like a lot of these builds here were very strong. There's a lot of different builds that people were doing. And yeah, I think that both of these builds very, very solid. And, best of all, you get to play a cat girl. So, who's really going to complain here? And yeah, next up, let's talk about Gemma. So I think Gemma 1 is going to be kind of solid. There are a lot of like kind of spell soft buffs right now. And Gemma 1 Ring of Ice is pretty much like a go-to standard type of build. And along with that, Gemma 2 with like, pretty much like any cold skill that you want to do, especially things like Frost Terra are pretty popular. And I know my boy Marty here was playing Gemma 2, and not very a lot of people were playing this last season, but it definitely seemed like it was very strong, as he was like head and shoulders above a lot of other people. And so hopefully we'll get like maybe a build guide out of him if he decides to do that again. But I think that both these two Gemmas are still very, very good and very, very capable. We're going to talk one more about Iris. I do think that Iris 1 and 2 are both still very much fine for early game. Iris 2 did get a pretty sizable nerf to, I believe it is Happiest Reunion here. Got a sizable nerf. I think it's like a 50% damage drop. Actually, it's Whirlwind Tango. So the ultimate spamming setup here, basically it's now going to have negative 50% damage, but Whirlwind Tango was just absolutely wild crazy. And so I don't know if this is going to like necessarily like break the bank for her early on, but like when I did city defense, I pretty much got carried by an Iris, even though I was, pretty geared out, able to go and do Supreme Showdown, and the Iris did like 5 times more damage than me. So I think that generally Iris is probably going to be a little bit more balanced and might be a little bit more accessible to play. Now, for my particular build that I'm going to be playing, I'm going to be starting off, as I typically try to do, with the new hero, Thea 3, and it's like very much erosion focused character. You're doing a lot of erosion damage, and I'm just pretty darn excited about that. I'll probably be playing like maybe the new Haunting Abomination, maybe Mind Control, with kind of figure out where we're going to take that. I will have a written guide for the campaign up basically when the patch goes live, so you can follow along with exactly what I'm doing. I'll also do like a little video that I'll put up on the YouTube as well. But hopefully this video helped you out. Let me know what you guys think. Builds are going to be really, really strong next season, and we'll see you in there. Later. Bye. I'm by the stream.